I believe that to be truly wise, you need to admit when you make a mistake. And that's what I'm going to do now. Take a look at this picture. I took it at Tallmadge Elementary School while waiting for my daughter to finish basketball practice. The message inscribed on this plaque is simple, but quite frankly humbling. Such unassuming language, erected in 1955 by a free vote of the people, hanging on that hallway for the past 57 years, gave me pause to reevaluate. Let's back up to last November when the Lancaster City Schools was asking for our vote to fund new elementary schools. The plan was, and is, to replace all of the old buildings with fewer but more centrally located ones. The logic is that as population has shifted, the existing buildings are no longer ideally located. Also, by combining buildings, a cost savings in support staff, utilities, etc. can be achieved. There's also those pesky issues of energy consumption and the lack of technology in those 50-plus-year-old buildings. And while I agreed that it was a well-thought-out plan and worthy of consideration, I was against it when it came down to raising our taxes. After all, we're in a recession. Times are tough. At least that's what I argued. We can't be raising taxes now, I said. So there I was, standing in that hallway at Tallmadge Elementary School, staring at that plaque, and this is what I realized. Those people back in the early 1950s, the ones who freely voted to raise their taxes to build the schools we still use today, they could have easily said, no new taxes. But this is what we now lovingly call the greatest generation. These are people raised during the Great Depression, an era where doing without was a way of life. They obviously knew their share of hardship. This was also the generation sent over to Europe and to the Pacific to defeat the Axis powers. Millions of them went and served. Hundreds of thousands came back with missing body parts or with deep psychological holes in their souls. And over 400,000 of them didn't come back at all. They could have come back with this huge chip on their collective shoulders, an attitude of, you owe me. Who would have blamed them in those early post-war years if they thought their taxes were too high, that they'd sacrificed enough already, and they voted no to those fancy new school buildings? But they didn't. What they did was come home, go to work, get married, raise children, and build one hell of a community to live in. They paid it forward, and we are still enjoying the benefits of their generosity to this day. Now it's our turn. We need to honor the greatest generation by living up to the standards they set for themselves. What I've learned is that there's never a good time to raise taxes. The economy's always going to have issues. We'll always have excuses why we shouldn't. But ask yourself this, 50 years from now, what do you want the plaque to say about your generation?